Commander Hyun looked out at the stars from the big window on Nexus Station. He felt tired after working for 10 years as a human diplomat here in space. In 3 more days, he would leave this all behind and go back to Earth. He touched the small picture of his childhood home in his pocket. Soon, he thought. The station was busy today. People and aliens from 50 different worlds walked through the halls. Hyun watched them, remembering how strange it all seemed when he first arrived. Now, it was just normal. "Sir," human diplomat. A soft voice called from behind him. Hyun turned around. Standing there was a slender alien woman with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Her arms held a small child who looked just like her but smaller. They were Kitharans, a species from a distant system. The woman's clothes looked worn and dirty. The child held tight to her mother, eyes wide with fear. "I am Hyun Kim, Earth Diplomatic Corps," he said with a small bow. "How can I help you?" The woman bowed very low, still holding her child. "I am Minna. This is my daughter, Hana. We have traveled far to find you." Hyun felt confused. He didn't remember any meetings with Kitharans today. "Do we have an appointment?" Minna shook her head. "No, sir. I came because—" She stopped, looking around. Other people walked past them, some turning to stare at the strange blue aliens talking to the human diplomat. "Perhaps we should talk somewhere more private," Hyun suggested, noticing her discomfort. He led them to a small meeting room nearby and closed the door. Inside, Minna set her daughter down on a chair. The little girl, Hana, looked around with big, curious eyes. She couldn't be more than 5 years old, Hyun thought. "Now, what brings you here?" Hyun asked, sitting down across from them. Minna took a deep breath. "I come to offer myself as your concubine, along with my child." Hyun almost fell off his chair. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "I offer myself as your concubine," Minna repeated, her voice stronger now. "I will serve you well. I can cook, clean, manage your home. I can learn any tasks you require. Hana is quiet and will not cause problems." Hyun held up his hands. "Wait, please. This is not. Humans don't take concubines. This isn't something I can accept." Tears filled Minna's large eyes. "Please. Our world is gone. The protection hierarchies are broken. Without a protector of status, we face terrible danger." "What happened to your world?" Hyun asked, trying to understand. "War," Minna said simply. "The great cities fell 3 months ago. Those who could escaped. We lived in refugee ships until we heard about this station. About humans." She looked down at her hands. "They say humans sometimes help those who have nothing." Little Hana looked up at Hyun. "Mama says you're nice," she said in a small voice. Hyun felt his heart twist. "Listen, I don't understand what you mean by concubine, but I think there's a cultural difference here. In our ways, a concubine is protected by their master. They have rights, a place in the family order. Without such protection—" Minna glanced at her child. "There are traders who collect displaced Kitharans, for work in mines or worse. We wouldn't survive." Now Hyun understood. This wasn't about romance or traditional human ideas of concubines. This was about survival. Protection. A desperate mother trying to save her child. "Where are you staying now?" he asked. "Nowhere," Minna admitted. "We arrived yesterday. We slept in the public area." Hyun checked the time. His meeting with the Centaurian ambassador was in 20 minutes. He couldn't just leave them here, but he also couldn't simply take them home like lost pets. "I can find you temporary quarters," he said. "And food. Then we can talk about real solutions that don't involve what you suggested." Hope flickered in Minna's eyes. "You will help us." "I'll try," Hyun said. He used his diplomat card to call station services and arrange emergency visitor quarters. While they waited, Hana approached him slowly. From her pocket, she pulled a small stone that glowed with soft blue light. "This is all I have," she said, holding it out to him. "For helping us." Hyun gently pushed her hand back. Keep it. Friends help each other without payment. Friends? Hannah asked, sounding confused. Yes, Hyun said, surprised by his own words. Friends. The room door opened as a station worker arrived to take them to quarters. Mina stood up and bowed deeply to Hyun. Thank you, human diplomat. We will not forget this kindness. As they left, Hyun sat back in his chair. His quiet retirement suddenly seemed very far away. He thought of the fear in Mina's eyes, the hope in little Hannah's. 3 days until his ship left for Earth. Plenty of time to find them proper help, he told himself. But deep inside, Hyun suspected his life had just changed course, like a ship caught in a new star's gravity. Whatever happened next, he knew he couldn't simply walk away. Hyun walked down the narrow corridor toward the temporary quarters where he had placed Mina and Hannah yesterday. He carried a bag of food and some clean clothes he had found. His friend Sung, another diplomat, walked beside him. I don't understand why you're getting involved, Sung said. You leave in 3 days. I couldn't just leave them, Hyun replied. You should have seen them. So scared. They reached the small room. Hyun knocked softly. The door opened, and Mina stood there, her blue skin looking paler than yesterday. You came back, she said, surprise in her voice. Hyun held up the bag. I brought food and clothes. Inside, little Hannah sat on the floor, drawing with a light pen someone had given her. She jumped up when she saw Hyun. Friend, she called out, running to him. Mina quickly pulled her back. Show respect to the human diplomat, she whispered. Hyun smiled. It's okay. We are friends. He turned to Sung. This is Sung, another diplomat who understands Kitharan culture better than I do. Sung nodded. I worked near your system before the war. They sat at the small table. Mina carefully prepared the food Hyun had brought, serving the men first before giving any to Hannah or herself. You don't need to serve us, Hyun said, feeling uncomfortable. Mina looked confused. It is proper. You are higher status. Sung leaned forward. I think we need to discuss what you meant yesterday by concubine. I don't think it means what humans think it means. Mina nodded. A concubine is not what you think. In our culture, it is a protected dependent with defined rights, a place in the household hierarchy. Like a family member. Hyun asked. Not equal, but protected, Mina explained. The protector provides safety and basic needs. The concubine serves the household and shows proper respect. Both have duties to each other. Sung looked at Hyun. It's more like a client-patron relationship in ancient Rome than what humans think of as a concubine. I understand human partnerships are different, Mina said, watching Hannah eat slowly. But I have no options. The refugee system doesn't recognize our biological need for hierarchical bonding. Biological need? Hyun asked. Sung explained. Kitharans evolved from herd animals with complex social structures. They physically need to be part of a hierarchy. Without it, they can get sick. Is that true? Hyun asked Mina. She nodded. Already Hannah shows signs. She does not sleep well. Her appetite fades. Hyun watched the little girl. She did look thinner than yesterday. A loud knock interrupted them. A station security officer stood at the door. We've had complaints about aliens in the diplomatic section, the officer said, looking at Mina and Hannah with suspicion. They are my guests, Hyun said firmly. All refugees must register at Processing Center 19, the officer replied. They don't belong here. They're not going to Center 19, Hyun said. I've heard about that place. The officer frowned. Rules are rules. They have 1 week to register, or they'll be forcibly relocated. After the officer left, some looked worried. Center 19 is bad. They pack refugees together with little food or care. Many Kitharans sent there don't survive. Mina's hands trembled as she cleared the dishes. This is why we need protection. Without status, we are nothing to them. Hannah came to Hyun with a drawing. I made this for you, she said shyly. The picture showed 3 figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun. Hyun recognized himself in the middle, with Mina and Hana on either side. A family, Hana said simply. It's beautiful, Hyun said, feeling something tighten in his chest. Later, as they walked back to Hyun's office, Sung spoke quietly. You know you could help them using the diplomatic protection clause. Take them as cultural dependents. That would mean taking responsibility for them permanently, Hyun said. I'm retiring in 3 days. Yes, Sung agreed. You would have to take them to Earth. Hyun stopped walking. I barely know them. True, Sung said, but sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason. That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. He thought about Mina's words, about Hana's drawing. He remembered the officer's cold eyes, the threat of Center 19. His comm unit beeped, a message from the temporary quarters. Please come. Hana is sick. Hyun rushed through the night cycle corridors. When he arrived, he found Hana burning with fever, her blue skin almost white. What happened? He asked, helping Mina put a cool cloth on the child's forehead. The station environment, Mina explained. Without proper hierarchy bonds, her immune system weakens, and this station's air lacks certain compounds we need. Hyun called the medical center, but they responded with indifference. Refugee cases are handled at Center 19, the nurse said. She needs help now. Hyun insisted. I'm sorry, sir. We don't have Kitharan medicine here. Hyun looked at Hana's small face, twisted in pain. Then at Mina, whose eyes held fear, but also a mother's determination. His retirement, his plans, his quiet life on Earth, all of it seemed suddenly small compared to what lay before him. I'll find a way, he promised Mina. You won't go to Center 19. For the first time since they met, Mina touched his hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin. Why would you help us? She asked. We are nothing to you. Hyun looked at Hana, then back at Mina. Maybe that's not true anymore. 2 weeks had passed since Hyun had first met Mina and Hana. His ship ticket to Earth lay unused on his desk. Each time he thought about leaving, he remembered Hana's small face, still recovering from her fever. Today, he sat in their new quarters, slightly bigger than the first room, with a small cooking area. Mina had placed strange blue crystals around the space that released compounds into the air. Hana breathed easier with them. These help her? Hyun asked, touching one of the crystals. Yes, a friend from another Kitharan family gave them to us, Mina said. They make the air more like our home. Hyun watched as Mina activated a small device. Suddenly, the air filled with floating lights, images of buildings, gardens, and strange animals. What is this? He asked, reaching out to touch one of the lights. His hand passed through it. Memories, Mina said softly. I was a keeper of cultural memory before the war. A historian? Hyun asked, fascinated by the detailed images floating around them. More than that. 7 generations of my family served in the Great Archives. We did not just record history. We lived it. She passed her hand through one image, and it expanded to show a vast building with crystal towers. This was my workplace. Hyun watched her face as she showed him more images. For the first time, he saw her not just as a refugee, but as someone who had lost her whole world. Someone important. You saved all this? He asked. Mina nodded. In this, she showed him a small crystal pendant around her neck. When the bombing started, I grabbed only this and Hana. Hana sat on the floor nearby, playing with a puzzle Hyun had brought her. She looked better today, her blue skin brighter. You know so much about me now, Mina said. But I know little about you. Why did you become a diplomat? Hyun sat back, surprised by the question. No one had asked him that in years. I wanted to see beyond Earth, he said simply. To understand how others live. To help build peace. A noble goal, Mina said. Not always, Hyun admitted. Sometimes diplomacy is just talking politely while nothing changes. Hannah came over with her puzzle. Look, I finished it. Well done, Hyun said, smiling at her. In just 2 weeks, she had started to trust him, to relax around him. His comm unit beeped. A message from his boss appeared. Your retirement extension has been denied. It read. Return transport leaves in 3 days. Final decision. Hyun's heart sank. He had already delayed his departure twice. Bad news? Minna asked, seeing his face. Work problems, he said, not wanting to worry her. Later that day, Hyun met with Sung in the station cafeteria. They're getting impatient, Sung said. You were supposed to be gone 2 weeks ago. Your replacement arrived yesterday. I know, Hyun sighed. But I can't just leave them. Hannah is still sick, and they'll be sent to Center 19. There might be one way, Sung said, lowering his voice. But it bends diplomatic protocols to their limit. Tell me, Hyun said. Section 47 of the Diplomatic Code allows officials to claim cultural dependence in special circumstances. It was created for diplomats who form significant bonds with alien cultures. You mean I could take them to Earth? Hyun asked. Yes, but there would be problems. Questions. People might think you're abusing your position. That evening, Hyun visited Minna and Hannah again. He found Hannah back in bed. Her fever returned. She's getting worse, Minna whispered, stroking Hannah's forehead as the child slept fitfully. Kitherans need specific atmospheric compounds. The medical bay can't synthesize them correctly. Earth has advanced medical centers, Hyun said. They could help her. Earth, Minna repeated, like a distant dream. I've heard it's beautiful. It can be, Hyun said. He took a deep breath. I'm considering a way to take you both there. Mina's eyes widened. How? A diplomatic provision. It would make you my cultural dependents. Like concubines? Minna asked. No, Hyun said firmly. Like family. You would be under my protection, but as equals. Minna looked confused. Equals? This is not how hierarchies work. It's how human families work, Hyun said, or how they should. Hannah stirred in her sleep, coughing. The sound tore at Hyun's heart. She needs better care than this station can provide, Hyun said. Minna touched Hannah's face gently. I would do anything for her, even accept strange human ways. Hyun smiled. They're not so strange once you get used to them. That night, as he walked back to his quarters, Hyun thought about the decision before him. Taking Minna and Hannah to Earth would change everything. His retirement plans, his quiet future. Yet each day, they became less like strangers and more like, he wasn't sure what to call it. Not quite family, but something close. His comm unit beeped again. Another message from his boss. Final warning. Board your ship in 3 days or lose your pension and benefits. This matter is closed to discussion. Hyun looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, and somewhere else was the destroyed world Mina and Hannah could never return to. He made his decision. The next morning, Hyun walked toward the station director's office. His steps were slow but sure. In his hand, he held a data pad with Section 47 of the Diplomatic Code ready to show. His friend Sung walked beside him, carrying a folder of legal documents. Are you sure about this? Sung asked quietly. Yes, Hyun said. I've thought about it all night. They reached the big office door with Station Director Park written on it. Hyun took a deep breath and knocked. Come in, called a sharp voice. Director Park sat behind a large desk. He was a short man with a stern face. He did not smile when Hyun and Sung entered. Commander Kim, he said coldly. I hear you've been causing problems. Sir, I need to discuss a diplomatic matter, Hyun began. You mean those aliens you've been hiding? Director Park interrupted. The ones who should be at Processing Center 19. Hyun placed his data pad on the desk. I'm invoking Section 47 of the Diplomatic Code to claim cultural dependent status for Mina and Hannah of Kithora. The director's face turned red. This is outrageous. He pounded his desk with his fist. You can't claim alien refugees as cultural dependents under Section 47. Actually, he can. Sung stepped forward. I am Advisor Sung from Legal Affairs. The provision was created precisely for interspecies cultural accommodations. This is an abuse of power, Director Park said. Those refugees should follow the same rules as everyone else. The child is sick, Khan explained. The standard refugee process would kill her. That's not my problem, the director said coldly. Outside the office window, Hyun noticed a group gathering in the station plaza. They held signs that read "Humans for Humans" and "No Special Treatment." Someone had organized a protest. You see, Director Park pointed to the window. People are angry. They think you're giving these aliens special rights. I'm trying to save a child's life, Hyun said. If you do this, the director warned, your diplomatic career is over. I'll make sure of it. No pension. No benefits. No future appointments. Hyun thought about his 20 years of service, the retirement home he had planned to buy, the easy life he had worked for. I understand, he said quietly. Sung pulled out more documents. We've already filed the paperwork. Under Section 47, Commander Kim has the right to claim cultural dependence regardless of your approval. Director Park slammed his hand on a button. Security, come to my office immediately. 2 security officers arrived quickly. They looked at Hyun with cold eyes. Remove these 2 from my office, Director Park ordered. Sir, one officer said, we checked the code. They're right about Section 47. It's an old law, but it's still valid. Director Park's face grew even redder. Get out, all of you. Outside the office, the protest had grown larger. People shouted when they saw Hyun. Alien lover. Someone called out. What about human refugees? Shouted another. Hyun and Sung walked quickly through the crowd. Someone threw a cup that splashed liquid on Hyun's uniform. This is worse than I expected, Sung said. I don't care, Hyun replied. We need to get to Mina and Hannah. The papers are filed, but we need to move them to my quarters until the ship leaves. When they reached the small room where Mina and Hannah had been staying, Hyun was shocked to find them packing their few belongings. What are you doing? He asked. Mina looked up, her eyes sad. We heard about the trouble you're in. The protests. We won't destroy your life. Who told you? Hyun asked. People talk, Mina said simply. A worker came to clean. She told us everyone is angry at you because of us. Little Hannah sat on the bed, holding her glowing blue stone. She looked even sicker than before. Where will you go? Hyun asked. Center 19, Mina said, though her voice shook with fear. Maybe it's not as bad as they say. No, Hyun said firmly. You're not going there. But your job, your future. Mina began. Hyun sat down next to Hannah. The little girl looked up at him with tired eyes. Friend sad? She asked. No, Hyun said, taking her small blue hand in his. Friend has made a decision. He looked up at Mina. I spent my career building bridges between worlds. 20 years talking about understanding and help. Maybe this is what it was all for. What do you mean? Mina asked. The papers are filed. You and Hannah are now my cultural dependents under Earth law. We leave for Earth in 2 days. But the angry people, Mina said, don't matter, Hyun finished. Some will always fear what's different. Sung, who had been quiet, spoke up. The legal process is complete. No one can stop it now. He smiled at Mina. Welcome to Earth citizenship, unofficially. That evening, Hyun moved Mina and Hannah to his quarters. It was safer there, with security codes on the door. As they settled in, Hyun received a message on his comm unit. It was from his boss on Earth. Received report from Director Park. Your actions are concerning. Explain yourself before further measures are taken. Hyun turned off the comm unit without answering. He watched as Mina tucked Hana into bed. The child's breathing was still difficult, but she seemed more peaceful now. Do you regret your decision? Mina asked softly when Hana was asleep. Hyun thought about everything he was giving up. Then he looked at them, this small family from another world who had changed his life in just a few weeks. No, he said, some things matter more than careers or money. On our world, we had a saying. Mina told him, the truest hierarchy is the one formed by choice, not birth. I like that, Hyun said. On Earth, we'll make our own hierarchy. Together. 6 months had passed since the day Hyun, Mina, and Hana had arrived on Earth. The small house overlooking the ocean was nothing like the grand buildings of Kithara, but Mina had grown to love it. The sound of waves reminded her of the singing lakes from her home world. Hyun worked in the garden, planting new flowers. His diplomatic career was over, just as Director Park had promised. No pension, no benefits, but he had found work teaching alien languages at a nearby university. The pay was less, but the work made him happy. The neighbors are coming for dinner, Hyun called from the garden. Tai and Yuna are bringing their children. Mina felt a small worry, as she always did when meeting new humans, but each time it got easier. I'll prepare extra food, she called back. Inside the house, a special room had been built. It had the right air, the right light, and the right sounds for Kitharans. Doctors on Earth had studied Hana's condition and created this space to help her grow strong. It worked better than anyone had expected. Hana, where are you? Mina called. A happy laugh came from outside. Mina looked through the window and saw Hana running with a small brown dog. The Earth animal had been afraid of the blue-skinned child at first. Now they were best friends. Look, Mama, Hana shouted, her voice strong and clear. No more sickness. No more fear. I taught Buddy to bring back the ball. The dog ran in circles around Hana, barking happily. Hyun watched them with a smile on his face. Later, as Mina prepared dinner, she thought about how much had changed. When they first arrived on Earth, people had stared at them in the streets. Some were afraid, some were angry. A few were kind. The first weeks had been hard. Hyun had lost friends who didn't understand his choice. Money was tight. Hana had been very sick until the special room was built. But slowly things changed. Neighbors became curious instead of afraid. Hana started school, the first Kitharan child on Earth to do so. Mina began working with Earth scientists to record everything she remembered about Kitharan culture and history. The university wants me to expand the Kitharan Cultural Preservation Project, she told Hyun as they prepared for their guests. And 3 more refugee families have been approved under the new Cultural Integration Program. Hyun smiled. Your work helped make that happen. He looked at her with pride. You're not a concubine here. You're a professor, just like me. Mina still found the human idea of equality strange sometimes. On Kithara, everyone had their place in the order of things, but she had come to appreciate this human way too. The doorbell rang. Tai and Yuna had arrived with their 2 children. The human family had become good friends over the past few months. We brought cake, Yuna said, giving Mina a hug. The first time a human had hugged her, Mina had frozen in shock. Now it felt normal. The children ran to find Hana. They didn't see her blue skin anymore. They just saw their friend. How's the petition going? Tai asked Hyun as they sat down. Hyun had started a petition to change refugee laws to make it easier for displaced aliens to find homes on Earth. Slow progress, he said, but people are listening. After dinner, the adults sat on the porch while the children played in the yard. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in beautiful colors. Did you see the news? Yuna asked. They found more survivors from Kithara, a whole ship of them. Mina's heart jumped. Where are they? Still in space, but heading this way, Ta said. The new laws might help them. Minna looked at Hyun, her eyes full of emotion. More of her people coming here. Maybe some she knew. Maybe family. After their friends left, Hyun, Minna, and Hannah stood together on the beach, watching the stars come out. Somewhere up there was Nexus Station, where they had first met. Somewhere else was what remained of Kithara. Do you regret it? Minna asked softly, a question she still asked sometimes. Giving up everything for us. Hyun took her hand. Their fingers looked different, his tan skin against her blue. But they fit well together now. I didn't give up everything, he said. I found something better. Hannah ran to them, took both their hands in hers. Look, she pointed to the sky. A falling star. Teacher says we should make a wish. What do you wish for? Hyun asked her. Hannah thought for a moment. Nothing, she said finally. I have everything already. Minna looked at this small family they had created, not built on the old Kitharan hierarchies, not exactly like human families either. Something new, something that had never existed before. Humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or power, Hyun said, watching the stars with them. It's our capacity to grow, to adapt, to build new kinds of families. Later that night, after Hannah was asleep, Minna found Hyun looking at old pictures of his life before them. Do you miss your old life? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted, but then I remember the person I was becoming. Always alone, always working. And now? Minna asked. Hyun smiled. Now I have a better story to tell, one about a human who found a family among the stars. Together, they turned out the lights and went to sleep in their home by the sea, a home that, like them, had pieces of two worlds brought together to make something whole.